Welcome back to the show, everyone. Always a pleasure to see our next guest, and she's got a new show that's shooting coming up in the spring, and you can help her out with that. We'll tell you all that information.
We certainly will. And you met Sarah Symonds on our show before. Of course, she reached a certain level of infamy being a mistress, and now she wants to help women get out of those exact situations with Mistresses Anonymous. How are you, Sarah?
Hi, Sarah.
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
What did you say just before we started? The largest just against infidelity, right?
You will not meet another person who is more anti-infidelity than me. Yes, it's a complete change to my previous life, but
Yeah.
I've been out of that world for 3 years, and I'm a
And you're very
convert is
open
often
that you
the
were a
most...
mistress, but you know it had negative effects on you, and that's why you're doing what you're doing now. And maybe you can explain Mistresses Anonymous.
Absolutely. Well, I hit rock bottom during, especially when things came out in the tabloids, etc. Had my heart broken, blah, blah, blah. But I just decided that not only did I want to change myself, put myself on a better path, but help all the other women who are ridiculously staying with married men.
Yeah.
There's nothing in it. There's no hope for a future. He's never going to leave his wife. And so that's, you know, a convert is often the most zealous person. So I set up Mistresses Anonymous. It's a 13-step program. And basically, I try to get these women out of the chains of their affairs, because the only women I hear from are mistresses in despair of their affair.
Yeah, it's sort of like the how to boil a frog scenario. Like you get into a situation and everything starts to unfold slowly, right? You don't see the whole person right away. You're sort of learning about this other person.
Absolutely, and women fall into these situations for different reasons. Sometimes they don't fall into them, they know, but there are so many different types of stories of why a woman is in an affair. And I hear from women who've been in affairs for 5, 6, 10 years. That's more than some people's marriages last.
That's more than a lot of people's marriages last.
Wasting the pretty, as my friends call it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit today how to spot a cheater. So maybe you can tell us what we should be looking for if you find yourself in a situation where you are suspicious that something else is going on.
First one is really, it is a feeling, isn't it?
Well, if you're the wife, yes, absolutely. If you go with your gut instinct, women were born with great gut instincts, so don't put your head in the sand and live in denial. If something isn't quite right, investigate it. If you're wrong, great, you've got a great husband, but better to know up front. But things like if you notice more money is coming out of the ATM, out of your bank account, but there's nothing to account for it.
Right.
It's because he doesn't want a paper trail on his credit card. Things like if he's ignoring spending time with you. Perhaps he's coming home later at night whilst you're already asleep. Doesn't have to have that intimacy with you, conversations, difficult questions he may not want to answer. So
how much vulnerability is involved in all this from both sides of the equation, either the spouse or the other person involved in the relationship? You know, just to ask those questions can be a really hard move for somebody.
Yes, but I mean, you're going to get hurt either way. Surely if your partner's cheating on you, it's better to find out and either nip it in the bud or part.
Yeah.
And I always say that mistresses and wives have so much more in common than they can ever realize, because they're both sharing half of a man who's lying to them, whereas he's getting the best of two women. He's manipulating them both. I'm not a man-hater.
No, but...
Only a cheating married man-hater.
Yeah,
no, and women do cheat too.
They
and
absolutely
it's
do.
really
It's
important to get
here.
yourself out of any relationship when it's unhealthy. So when you have that gut instinct, what should your next step be?
I would say confront him about it. You know, if you're going to put your head in the sand and live in denial, you're never going to get to the truth. And if a man throws it back on you and says, oh my God, you're crazy, that's a really good sign he's having an affair. Because a man who would not want to hurt his wife would say, how could you think that? Oh my God, no, I'm not having an affair. I'd never do that to you. But somebody who tries to brush you off with that kind of defensive behavior, that's a huge red flag.
How much has this changed your life? Not just talking about your own experience, but hearing from other women, because it's far more common than I think people want to acknowledge. Yeah. How much has it affected your life hearing these stories and sort of coming to understand what a part of living this is?
That's a great question, because as much as I'm trying to leave my old life behind, obviously I'm reliving it a lot when I'm hearing the stories, which are textbook stories, different guys, different situations, different cities, but the same underlying thing. So it does take me back to some dark places sometimes, but my work with these women helps keep me straight on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So
okay, what about the other side of the equation? You're a single woman, you meet a man, you think he's great. But there can be signs that he has a girlfriend, wife, or is in a relationship. What should you look for in that regard?
Great question again. And again, let's talk about the money side of it. If you're at a bar and you meet a guy who wants to buy you a drink, not many guys these days use cash. So if he's paying for everything in cash, again, it's the old doesn't want a paper trail thing.
Right.
If he happens to have 2 cell phones on him, that's a bad sign. If you swap numbers and you start texting with him, you're calling with him, and he's suddenly unavailable after 7 o'clock at night, so you might get a reply to your text the next morning.
Family time.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And if he doesn't invite you home, it's because there's usually a wife and family there. Or if he doesn't want you to meet his friends or his mother, you know, it's
So
not,
should
not
you be
good.
forcing your way into some of these situations? I mean, as a single woman, when you first meet a guy, I mean, there's obviously
Ask if they're single.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah, but
question
they
number one.
sometimes lie.
I was going to say, but, you know, guys lie. And,
Yeah.
and-
Like, I just want all women to live in the truth. You know,
Yeah.
let's not get paranoid,
Yeah.
etc. But let's also not rest on our laurels and assume that men are
When you
telling
have
us
an
the truth.
instinct about something,
Yeah.
man or woman, usually
Chances are.
it's
If it's
right.
too good to be true as well, usually it is.
Okay, so you have a couple of seminars in Vancouver. Tell us how people can find out and attend.
Yep, the meetings, my workshops are being held this Thursday and Friday evenings, and if they write to me via mistressesanonymous.com,
We've got it on the screen.
thank you, I will reply to them personally and let them know where the venues are.
And the reality show. You are doing a show to help mistresses get out of the situations. Tell us a little bit about that, because you are looking for people to be on the show.
I am, and I'm super excited about the show and being able to focus on my work with these women. And the show is going to really pull back the veil of secrecy of the life of the mistress, because it is a secret. So I urge any woman, A, get in contact with me to come to my workshop, but if they'd like to be on my show and have their story told, actually find their voice. They've been a secret for so long. I can work with them on a one-to-one basis, get them out of that world, and they'll also have
Yeah.
great time on TV.
Well, and it's an inspiration for other women too, because you know, it's a I would imagine it's an extremely lonely place to be, because who do you confide in? You can talk to your friends, but you can't talk to the guy. You can't, you know
That's
what I mean?
right,
Like,
and that's the misconception again, which this show will blow the covers off, because, you know, everyone thinks the secret life of a mistress is somewhat exciting, glamorous.
Yeah.
There may be little parts of that, but it's a very lonely time. Things like Christmas Day, Valentine's Day, heinous times when you can't be with the man you love.
Yeah.
And yet you would think, well, why the hell don't you just leave? It's not as easy as that. That's why they need my 13-step program.
And you can go to the website to find out all the information about both the seminars that are being held right here in Vancouver. You can email Sarah to find out the information on that. And if you'd like to be a part of the reality show, you can go to the website to find out info for that as well.
yeah, it's being taped in Vancouver this spring and summer, and will air on the Slice Network in the fall. Congratulations. I look
Thanks
forward to
again.
seeing the show.
Thanks for having
Sarah.
me.
We're going to
Thank
take a
you.
break. And when we come back, we're talking a little bit about the Golden Globes, the best and worst dressed, and Alexander Ovechkin. He's a hip-hop star now. We'll show you the video right after this. Stick around.